Good morning, members. It is now to start the meeting. We have also formed a quorum. I call the meeting to order. Item 1 on the agenda, confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting. I think a copy of the minutes has already been sent out to you. We haven't received any proposals to amend the minutes, so let's confirm the minutes. Thank you. And then item 2, information papers issued since the last meeting. The Secretariat has sent out 2 such papers since the last meeting. One about the provision of public facilities for playing cricket and other sports. The other is about the issues relating to the use of 3-wheeled carts and golf carts within the parks mentioned by the LCSD. If you haven't got any questions, date and items for discussion of the next meeting. We have already issued a list of outstanding items for discussion. For the coming meeting, provisionally, we'd like to take up 2 issues, and the date of the meeting will be the 10th of May, Friday at 8:30. So the 2 items proposed are provision of funding for acquisition of artworks, as well as an interim report of the Review Committee on the Building Management Ordinance. Please also take a look of item 11 on the list, matters relating to building management. I believe that this item is closely related to the interim report, so I suggest that both should be taken together. I remember that it was Mr. Wu Chiwai who first raised the item. So if you do object, we'll deal with the 2 items at the next meeting. We've also given you a copy of a correspondence from Mr. Michael Tian. He would like us to talk about the issues relating to the review and enhancement of Tin Shao Bazaar in Tin Shui Wai. The paper has been referred to you. So I just want to seek your advice. For this item, would you like to have it discussed at a panel meeting, or would you ask the administration to give us a paper to give an account to us? Yes, Mr. Chairman, I believe that in relation to the case of Tin Shao Bazaar, I think we would like to get a report from the administration before we decide on whether we want to have a more detailed discussion, as it is quite a specific issue. Of course, for the case of Tin Shao Bazaar, other districts are watching, trying to see if they may want to have something similar. Therefore, the support offered by the administration will be of interest to us. It's better if we can get some information from the admin first. Our views, no, then we will take on board what Mr. Leung Chi-cheng has suggested. That is, we ask the administration for a reply, and then we'll see if we want a discussion or not. All right. If we haven't got other points, then we'll move on to item 4 on the agenda, which is the reprovisioning of Shanghai Street Refuse Collection Point and Street Sleeper Services units. Please invite the administration's team to join us. Members, if you would like to ask questions, please press our button. There is the request to speak button. Good morning. If I may, first of all, introduce the public officers in attendance to you. First of all, Ms. Florence Hui, the Acting Secretary for Home Affairs, Mrs. Avia Lai, Deputy Secretary for Home Affairs, Ms. Winston Chow, Assistant Director of LCSD, Mr. Fan Yong-kai, Assistant Director from the Food and Environmental Hygiene Department, Mr. Fung Man-chung, AD of the Social Welfare Department, and Mr. Sat Sing-hing, Senior Project Manager from the Architectural Services Department. Welcome. Maybe first of all, I would like to give the floor to the SHA to walk us through the paper. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members. I'm glad to come with the other department's representatives to your meeting to brief you on the reprovisioning of Shanghai Street RCP and Street Sleepers Service units to the site at Haocheng Street, Yangma-tei. As you all know that we got the electrical's support to reduce the Yangma-tei Theatre project, and then in fact it has been commissioned, and since July last year we have already started to turn the venue into a place to nurture the new talents of Cantonese opera. And in fact we had asked for funding from the electrical to repair the Yangma-tei Theatre. It has been pointed out that the RCP and the Street Sleepers Services units would no longer be compatible with the cultural ambience of the Yangma-tei Theatre. In fact, the theatre itself is small, so we need space to expand the foyer as well as the side stage. It is not easy to find suitable site to reprovision the two facilities, but still we're glad to report to you that eventually we have got suitable sites for reprovisioning, and we have already started the advanced work. And as stated in the paper given to you, we have set out the scope of the project. We would like to have your support so that we can approach the PwC as well as the FC so that we get the funding, and then we can commence the work, and then we can have phase 2 of the Yangma-tei Theatre project. And we'll be happy to take questions from you. Thank you. Now that takes us into the Q&A session. Since it is a funding arrangement, so if you have any conflict of interest, please declare your interest. Members do need to declare any interest. No, then we will have a discussion. 7 members would like to speak. Wu Jiwai, Claudia Mo, Yu Si-wen, Yip Kin-yun, Tony Chair, Fernando Cheung, Zhang Guoqu. I think we will still have a time limit, 4 minutes each, and if we have time left, there will be a second round of questions. First of all, Mr. Wu Chi-wai, for the conversion of YMTT into a CG activity center, I have no queries. However, when it comes to the reprovisioning, I think in relation to the street sleepers' needs, I think it is an issue of concern to the community at large. Now, for the reprovisioning proposed here, I just wonder whether we can maximize the utilization of space available. Are you going to provide sufficient places for the street sleepers? In Yangma-tei, we have often heard that people are saying that the street sleepers are quite numerous in that area. And I want to know how you're going to make use of this opportunity of reprovisioning to enable the street sleepers in that district will be getting more support. SHA, I'd like to thank Mr. Wu Chi-wai for his general support of the Yangma-tei Theatre project. Thank you for your concern for the street sleepers. Well, for the reprovisioning of this unit, we have been cooperating with the service operators, Salvation Army being one of them, and at the reprovisioned site there will be adequate services for the street sleepers. Mr. Chairman, I do understand the point, but my question was, would the government departments be maximizing the space? I think what you are doing is to reprovision the same number of places from red brick building to the new site. But in fact, there is a strong demand for street slippers services. So I'm going to take this opportunity to increase the number of residential places so as to meet the demand of the street slippers. SHA, for the street slippers services, the SWD has been taking an overall view to see how we can provide the services to the street slippers. Now, we are here to listen to your views concerning the reprovisioning of the original facility, and the scale would be the same. Yes, I know it isn't something for this panel, but then the CG Activity Center has already been commissioned. We know that there is an lack of space, so we won't object to the reprovisioning project. But then we are disappointed for something that's close to our heart, that is the street slippers places. You don't actually think of maximizing the space. I'm disappointed. So for the new site, I want to know whether there will be more places for the street slippers. And is the site being underutilized? Can we have expansion of the service? Mr. Wu is concerned about the provision of service to the street slippers. Your concern will be referred to the relevant department. Is it possible to give me a reply concerning the technical question? Well, the reprovisioning is about... Well, I want to know about the plot ratio. Is there space for expansion? If not, then I don't have to pursue this question. Any information? If yes, please answer the question. If not, then it's fine. Claudia Mo, the RCP and the street slippers are packed. I think it is upsetting. I, of course, appreciate that you haven't got space, and so maybe we can't really sort of object to it. Now, if I may follow up on Mr. Wu's question. Now, the facility for the street slippers will be reprovisioned in the same scale. Since you're relocating it, why don't you have 2 more floors so that you can have an expansion? I don't think we should simply just talk about reprovisioning. Now we're talking about home affairs, and so we have to look at the number of street slippers in Kowloon West. I think the number is quite a large one.
And of course, besides contacting with Salvation Army, have you been contacting with such as FEHD or the SWD? Furthermore, in terms of the RCP, now we're talking about a collection of glass bottles. Can we have some sort of sound noise barrier for this? Because a lot of times when you are collecting glass bottles and such, it can be very loud. And also, in terms of solid waste, will we be separating them and not just put all of them into one pile? Thank you. SHA, please. As to the question to Ms. Claudia Mo, in terms of street sleepers relocation, as I had explained to Mr. Wu earlier, we hope to hear more of the concerns from members today. In terms of the future, as to how we can service to sleepers, I'll ask the colleagues to explain this to you. In terms of our relocation today, we are closely connecting with the different departments such as ARC-SD, FEHD, SWD, and we have conducted consultation and before coming here today to hear your concerns. In terms of a separation of waste, and it is, of course, that is our policy objective, and we have an FEHD colleague here, and perhaps FEHD can supplement. FEHD, do you have anything to add? Thank you, Chairman. In terms of the waste, we are closely connected with the EPD. Madame Mo has talked about glass bottles collection. And a lot of times we do have that. But in talking about noise, we will discuss this with EPD. Thank you. Yes, further. Can we consider add 1 or 2 more stories to the SSSU? You said you've consulted with the district. What was the conclusion of that? Yes. SHA, please. Now, comprehensively, this plan has already started discussion in 2009 about how to, because of YMTT and a red brick, both graded historic buildings, we want to see how to develop it. Now, of course, the situation is that the RCP and the SSSU and the public toilet was connected with the YMTT. And so we've listened to the ideas of members to relocate these 3 facilities. So in the past, we've been trying to find space. And now in the past, a lot of members have said that it's true that it's difficult to find something that's close. So because of all these restraints, what we can tell you today is about the relocation, and then we can have a phase 2 development in the YMTT. Yes, thank you, Mr. UC Wing. Thank you, Chairman. In terms, I support the relocation of the RCP, but I know that just in the previous times, there were some arrangements for tourists to go to the YMTT or to watch the performances, but I heard that it was not very effective and it was difficult to do. In terms of this repositioning today, I think there should be a plan. I can see that there is some talk about want to increase the lobby space. Now, that's just increasing the hard space for the theater. But I don't remember in like Hong Kong in the past, the very vibrant scene in front of the theater, such as there are stalls and such, and different people will go there and try to feel the atmosphere. Now, I'm wondering whether the administration will continue this tradition or work in conjunction with the fruit market. So can we bring back the ambience of the theaters in whole Hong Kong? If we can do this, then we can get more tourists to come, and perhaps we can have some space for snacks, and let them feel the atmosphere of the old Hong Kong. And for example, maybe the fruit markets can have a fruit stalls and bring a lot of different varieties of fresh fruits from world over to let tourists choose from. Will the administration consider this? I thank you for the suggestion of Mr. Yu. Now, in the phase 2 of the YMTT, besides the lobby and the box office, we are considering a open space that is going to be covered. So why do we have to consider all these different spaces? Is because in the planning we need to preserve the historically graded buildings. There are some restrictions in terms of how we can renovate these buildings. So after repositioning the public facilities, we hope that there will be a more comprehensive design for the YMTT. But as all the supporting facilities suggested by you, such as to increase the ambience, such as to have like a fruit stall or some local snacks. So I think that after we've done consultation with the district council and have further development in terms of the design, we can consider this. Mr. Yu, please. Chairman, Now, I think that, of course, we should consult with the DC, but I think the administration should have a plan to very clearly state what your position is. And perhaps you may also consult with the tourism industry so that when you're launching this, it will be more effective. So it's not like this time because we want to arrange some tourists to go there. Now, I know like this has stopped and now they want to start again. So I hope that there will be a long-term objective plan. Yes, and we do hope to consult this with the industry, especially the travel industry, so we can maximize the effectiveness of the YMTT. Chairman, another question about if we're going to relocate the RCP to, I believe it's across from the fruit markets. Now, in terms of perhaps the store owners and the workers of the fruit stall, have they agreed with this? Yes, we have done all the consultation and we have discussed with the stakeholder and have agreed before we picked this place. And next is Mr. Yip Kin Yoon. Chairman, in terms of the repositioning here, I support this generally. As I understand is that what we have to do here today is to develop the YMTT and the RCP in the SSSU. I mean, they were not going to be affected, but because of this YMTT development, so we have to repositioning it. Now, I have some questions with this background in mind. First, in terms of the process and the consultation, 11th and 12th paragraph mentioned said that we've consulted the DC as well as the community building committee, but I don't see any mention about consultation with the street sleepers or organizations about them. But it seems that you have communicated them. But what is the response? Here you said very clearly that the Cantonese Opera Advisory Committee and the DC support this. But how about the street sleepers? Now, right now the space is kind of far. Furthermore, now, street sleepers have to go there. Will it be a bit far for them? Yes, it's a bit far away from the residential areas. So how can we let them know about this new place? Also, this relocation, as some members have stated, it is an opportunity to provide better services for street sleepers. So can we improve the services from now? Can we know that will there be a greater need to have no matter in terms of quality and quantity? So these are my questions. SHA, please. Thank you, Mr. Yip. In terms of the repositioning, it's always been planned for a long time. In terms of the organizations serving the street sleepers, such as the Salvation Army, the SWD has communicated with them closely to ensure that the street sleepers will get the services they need. In terms of the distance, because the RCP has to be at a designated distance, so it's not very far from where it is now. Thirdly, in terms of improvement in quality and quantity for street sleepers, and we do really hear the concerns of several members, and we do hope that we will reflect this concern to members, to colleagues. Mr. Yip, yes, there's another question, is that have we consulted the NGOs for street sleepers, and what is their response to this repositioning? Perhaps I will ask the colleague from SWD and mention about the communication with the NGO. Yes. Thank you for questions from members. We have been communicating with two organizations, that is the Street Sleeper Shelter Society as well as Salvation Army, and we've been very closely communicating with them, and they agree to support the YMTT Phase 2 and the repositioning here. Chairman, now if yes, Perhaps this information should be in the papers next time. I just want to ask one more question. Now, in terms of the putting SSSU and RCP together, is that something that must be done in terms of policy? Now, this is just a historic reason for this. Now, in terms of these two places, no matter, we try to improve the facilities of the RCP in terms of hygiene, in terms of quality, because we do know that it's close to residential areas. Please don't be alleviated of your concern. And next, Mr. Tony Tse. Yes, personally, I generally support the repositioning of the RCP and the SSSU because it will improve the area of the C2 Activity Center in Yamate. But I am also concerned, like other members, that because you are talking about more than 10,000 square feet here. I hope that the government, even before the FC is approved, can give an answer as to are you just going to use such small developments for such a big space? Because of course land development is very important here. So can we put some more things inside that space? In terms of can we put more money into developing this space? So this is the first point. Second, of course, different people who are using this should be concerned. Now, we should note that the sleepers in terms of the RCP, how should we minimize the conflicts between the utilizers of these two facilities? Third, in terms of the RCP, now everyone knows in terms of waste handling, it's going to be a big concern in the future, and perhaps we can, there will be some improvements proposed in terms of legislation. In terms of handling the waste, and I think we should consider designing an RCP that should meet future needs, because there's more than 10,000 square feet. So I think that we can do more. Second, I also want to discuss about having a C2 activity center. Like Mr. Yu, I think that Yamate has some special buildings, and then also some other special features that we think we should promote. Hope we're not just talking about the C2 activity center, and hope that we can also consider to have nearing spaces that to promote the specialties there. And of course, how to use the particular land, such as right now we're saying that the lobby is very small and a lot of elderly people, when they're waiting to enter, they can't have a lot of space to wait. I hope that we can satisfy the needs in the future. Furthermore, the administration looking at the usage problems right now of the C2 Activity Center. We hope that we can use the land effectively. Secretary, please.
Secretary, 40 seconds for you. I'd like to thank Mr. Chair for his questions. The member is concerned about land use. We're going to provide additional information later. As to the street sleepers as well as the RCP, we did consider how the collection of refuse would not result in air quality problems. The ventilation system would be given special attention to make sure that there won't be an environmental problem. As to the CG Activity Center, the utilization rate is 100%. And since commissioning, we have gathered some experience, and we hope that for the future activities to be organized, will be follow the direction mentioned by Mr. Yu and Mr. Chair. That is, the promotional activities would be better tied in with the software nearby. Next, Fernando Zhang. A few more members have joined the queue since I made the original arrangements, so I'll be very strict about the time management. The Undersecretary said that the RCP and the street slippers are a historical coincidence. Now, for the CG Activity Center, it is regarded as not being compatible with the RCP in terms of the cultural ambience. But what about the RCP and the street slippers? Are they compatible? Mr. Chairman, I think it is a clear case of discrimination. How come that you house the street slippers services unit on top of the RCP? If you look at the plan, then you will see very clearly that you have a huge RCP. On top of it, you provide a home for the street slippers. Now, the Undersecretary is saying that we don't need to worry, as there will be advanced technology to reduce the odor. Now, for the RCP, yes, as Ms. Mo has already said, we have to bear in mind the noise given out by collection of glass bottles and recycling of glass bottles. When you talk about cultural ambience, have you ever considered the odor from the RCP? How come that you can put the two together? It is for human inhabitation. If you don't mind it, would you like to move there to live? Undersecretary, about the odor rising from the operation of the RCP. Well, in fact, at this RCP, we're going to have a advanced equipment for the removal of odor, and then the odor can be reduced to the minimum, and there will be disinfection, and after each round of operation there will be a major cleansing. Mr. Chairman, this is nonsense. You reduce it to the minimum. It means that there will still be odor. After all, it is an RCP. In fact, you should not have put the two together. Now, for the CG Activity Center, as a result of that, you need to redevelop the original facilities. I think you should just have 2 more stories, and then you allow the SSSU to be there. You haven't exhausted the plot ratio. Why can't you move the SSSU further away from the RCP? I think it is fundamentally wrong, and it is unacceptable to us. As to Dr. Zheng's concern about the street slippers services, I think the SWD certainly will give an overall consideration in the long term. Now, for Yamate Theatre, it is a historic building, and therefore the scale of conversion was subject to a lot of limitation. We tried to have more seats. We want to have a larger stage, but then the limitations have been such that the scale of the theater is small. Now, you're going to reprovision the RCP and the SSSU. I think you have 2 more stories, and then you can do it. I think it is fundamentally flawed. It is totally unacceptable. You need to redesign it. Don't shift the blame to the SWD, because all the departments from the government. I think it is inhuman and it is discriminatory for you to have the SSSU on top of the RCP. I think time is up, so we'll just see if the government can follow this up later. Mr. Zhang Guoqu. Yes, I'm as concerned as the other members who spoke before me. The SHA said that it is a historical coincidence for the RCP and the SSU to be put together. Now, history we have turned for history. We have already turned to new leaf. You are reprovisioning the RCP and the SSSU. How come that you're still accommodating them at the same place? Is it because of bureaucracy on the part of the officials, or are you trying to shift the blame to the historic building, saying that it's grade 1 or grade 2? Now, for High Street, the ex-mental hospital was converted and were able to increase the height. Why can't we do the same for the Yamate Theatre? So Mr. Zhang mentioned one possible feasibility, that is for the red brick hotel building, or for the RCP, we can convert them by increasing a few more stories, and then on the lower floors you have the CG activities, and then on top you have the SSSU, and then the RCP can go to a new place. I think it will be a win-win situation. If the government has the will, then there is a way. However, if you just confine yourselves within the limitations of the historical element, then you can't achieve anything. SHA, in terms of timing, we indeed have to reprovision the RCP and the SSSU before we have phase 2 of the development of Yamate Theatre. And then we demolish the existing buildings, and then we have phase 2 development. So first of all, we must reprovision the facilities. Mr. Chairman, if there is a question of timing, then it is a mere technical issue. If the government has the will, I'm sure you can get a temporary site to reprovision the SSSU. We're only talking about dozens of places. Even if you have a smaller scale, many people are willing to wait, because if you can have permanent reprovisioning to a larger place and a more decent place, it will be better. Mr. Chairman, it has taken us 2 years to identify a suitable site for the reprovisioning. We are subject to a number of limitations. First of all, it has to be close to Yamate. Second, there must be sufficient space to accommodate the reprovisioned facilities. Therefore, we have to secure your support before we can have the phase 1 development. Mr. Chairman, we come here with very strong views because we weren't aware of the problems. Today, we identified a problem, and therefore, we should do a better job. It is not that it can't be done. It's a matter of you not willing to do it. So it's not a matter of timing. I think you need to take our views expressed today more seriously. Members' views have been noted. You have noted our views. Are you going to do it? We want to listen to other members as well. Now it's my turn. I fully support the concept of the project. This is because, well, before year 2000, I already suggested that Yamate Theatre should be converted into a CG activity center. But then I found it strange. I don't know why the project or the facilities have not been reprovisioned at the same time. Had that been done at the same time, I think it would have been much better. I want to know if we don't reprovision. I want to know whether the daytime activities would affect the evening activities. Do you need to suspend the operation of the CG Activity Center so as to allow the interface to take place? Moreover, in the vicinity, you don't have any space for the parking of coaches. So can you look at the transport issue? And then thirdly, I'm also quite concerned about the co-location of the RCP and the Street Sleepers Services Unit. In today's standards, I think this is not ideal, and I hope that the administration will consider this point. And please answer my first two questions. As Mr. Ma has pointed out, we have to bear in mind the historical background. For Yamate Theatre, we'd like to upgrade it so that it can become a CG activity center. When we first developed the concept, we had the support of many members. Many members have also asked for the nearby facilities to be reprovisioned so that the YMTT can be given a better treatment. When we followed this up, we did spend a lot of time on site selection. This is because if we want to reprovision the facilities nearby, it would not be easy. And it was only until recently that we could get the site at Hao Chang Street. And that's why we have come and have told you about the reprovisioning of the facilities. As to whether the reprovisioning would impact upon YMTT, if we can start the work in November, we believe that in about April 2016 we'll be able to complete the project, and after that we will have phase 2 development of Yamate Theatre, and therefore in the coming years Yamate Theatre will not be affected. As to the parking of coaches and the transport angle, we have been following this up and will bear in mind members' suggestions to see how we can better tie in with the development of Yamate Theatre. Next, we'll give time to members who have come in late. KK Kwok, Chung Shi Kan, Helena Wong, James Toh, Frankie Yik. There may not be sufficient time, and I would suggest that you have a 3-minute slot for the 6 members who are going to speak. Dr. KK Kwok, I'm not a member of the panel. I just want to make 2 points. First of all, we won't object to the Yamate Theatre project. It is a worthy project. What we are asking is as follows. Now, you want to reprovision the facilities temporarily. It is understood. Street sleepers won't go to a new place, so you're just driving them out onto the street. I'm not sure whether the government has a policy to render them homeless again. So I think it's a matter of the overall policies for the street sleepers. I think it is a total failure. For Hao Cheng Street, I think we all know that it is in a faraway corner. Many street sleepers have been used to the original site, and they can have access to different services like medical. So for phase 2 development, you need to incorporate the street sleepers services unit. Even for large cities, they also take care of the street sleepers. So when it comes to reprovisioning, you have to do it properly. And in fact, the Hong Kong Council of Social Services has carried out a survey. A lot of them would like to become self-reliant again, so they just want to have a roof over their heads.
So I think if we continue to let them sleep above the RCP, it's not something that we want to see. We want the administration to do something. Now, we understand that you need some short-term relocation, and that is not a long-term solution. Furthermore, in terms of above the RCP, there should be more usage regardless, such as for community use, the different needs of YMT. Now, as actually you do cultural services, so you know that there's not enough space for practices, but you know that such as in the in other places, they have places with very low rent, give them a lease a place for nominal rent, so you can erect a building that's more than 10 stories high. So why can't we do this? I think that any artist will not feel badly about the location. I hope that the government will not continue to let street sleepers go to these places. Thank you for the suggestion. In terms of the arrangements of the SSSU, I think the SWD can make a supplement in terms of an overall street sleeper policy. At the same time, can we have more usage for the RCP to support the development of cultural services? We've heard your suggestion, and we will take this into consideration. Thank you. Next is Mr. Christopher Chung. No, I think that putting the SSSU above the RCP is not ideal, and it's bad for the image of the administration. So I suggest that the SHA will discuss with the FEHD and the SWD. So perhaps the FEHD can move some of their offices in that places. I think it would be a very ideal office space, and maybe even better for the work coordination, so that their current offices will be emptied, and then the SSSU can be moved to those places. But I'm mostly concerned about the YMTT, the C2 Activity Center. The paper said that it can be used as a performance or practice space. Now, how many seats will there be? But because these small performance theaters have a great demand, in the future, if we can develop the RCP into a true C2 Activity Center to have more performance centers, that will be more more desirable. Now, I'm asking that how many seats will there be? Will there be a plan to redevelop this RCP? Yes. Right now, the space we have is very small. This is just abutting the YMTT. So there are only about 300 seats in the YMTT. But because it is a historic building, we must do some works restriction. We hope that if we move the RCP, we can make an extension, and also to make the lobby bigger. So we hope to use the space for rehearsal space. And we hope that there will be a covered open space, and there will be in accordance with the ambience of the YMTT to develop into a comprehensive C2 activity center. Mr. Christopher Chung, any more questions? No? Okay, now before more questions, I have received a motion from Dr. Fernando Zheng. So, Mr. Fung-kwok is to hope that the administration will to separate the RCP and the SSSU, and to have the SSSU be located at the top floor of the YMTT. Now, I think that we can have a discussion about this motion later. Now, I would ask the Secretariat to photocopy this and give it to everyone. Next, Ms. Chen Yunhan, Chairman. Now, I think Sleep Sleeper is mostly about SWD. Now it's about you, but I am welcome this nevertheless. Now, I have a lot of opinions about SWD, and of course Home Affairs has their own responsibility. Now, if we just use a common sense view, now the street sleepers and the RCP, now SHA has talked about things about facilities, about clean air, etc., but I think that gives a very bad impression. Now, you say that a lot of district councils and other people have approved this. Now, Chairman, it seems that whenever the situations like this, if you take the concerns of the street sleepers or the general public, Now, I went to the space, and a lot of people are complaining that it's very dirty. But if you handle it in the same way, I think the SWD has not handled its own responsibility. Now, even today, how can I object to this? This is a very wrong decision. And in terms of home affairs, you as a leader in a district, you must discuss with the district, so then make sure that there is going to be space. Now, for example, there's a parking space nearby. So why can't you, there's a lot of space over there. So even if you put the RCP very beautiful, it is still a refuse collection point. So I think you're just linking street sleepers with garbage. I don't even want to say this, but I think that Matthew Chung is discriminating street sleepers. But I think the Home Affairs has not acted as a leader to District Council. There's still a red brick building over there. I found some information. Now, Undersecretary, you have not done a very good job planning. And you just found a space and you just put them in there. So everyone knows that now there is a YMTT. I just want to very heavily criticize this in terms of the SSSU and linking RCP together. So I think that the land planning here has been very poor. So this is a suggestion. I don't think she can even answer me. She hasn't been answering questions for the entire question. Next is Dr. Helena Wong. Thank you, Chairman. I too think that the Home Affairs will need to reflect our opinion to the SWD. I strongly disapprove of this current SSSU policy. I agree with the other members. I do not disagree putting SSSU and RCP together. It's wrong now. Now, if you were repositioning this in the future as well, there will be a further extension of the wrong. If you look at it now, in this new space, if you use it as an RCP, we don't have any disapproval opinions. But if you put in a SSSU, you know it is rather, there are no residences near. So you just say that, oh, it's good that we don't have to look at all these things that we don't like and put them over there. But is there going to be a transportation facilities for the street sleepers to access them? I tried to go there, but it's very difficult. So how will you let them go there? So I suggested that RCP can go over there, but the SSSU should be a more accessible space. The problem here is that the policy for street sleepers is, for example, all those places that can let people sleep, such as under the bridge, you have set a lot of different random obstacles to prevent them from staying there, so that those street sleepers cannot sleep anywhere. And you put obstacles to let them not be able to sleep in the existing spaces. So if you don't want there to be street sleepers, then you should have a very accessible SSSU. It's not just put them in so far away, and then so put a lot of stones and whatever underneath bridges so they can't sleep there. I have a lot of pictures of it so that to show this. So if your city's planning is to not let them sleep on the street, then you need a lot of shelters to let people who are homeless to be able to sleep. So I have a strong opinion about this, and I hope that you can talk about this to the LWB. And now there's also a discussion about parking space. There is only one public parking space in Yangma-te. Now it's near Nathan Road and Temple Street. But because of the works on the new road, a lot of them has to be redesigned. And I think the public parking will be demolished. And I heard the relevant unit, there's no discussion about how to handle public parking. Now, if we demolish the existing space, then we are lacking 300 parking spaces every day. Now, if you do this here again, so I hope that you will discuss with the Transport Department and others to how to develop this. Now, there's already double parking there. Now, if you're going to demolish it, then you're going to lack of 300. And now you're saying that this particular space needs to be an arts and cultural district. I don't know how you handle car parking. Oh, you've used all your time. Next is Mr. James To. Yes, I am a district councillor there, and I do understand the background. Now, I know there's a historical reason. As I understand that there's a RCP first, and then they moved the SSSU there because there's space above. But I hope that the administration, when they're thinking, is that there are a lot of direct thinking, is that because they have to have a YMTT, so why don't we just put them together? But I think that right now, the values of society is that we cannot tolerate this. Now, you can't help it in the past because of historical reasons. Also, what's changed is that right now, as Dr. Helena Wong had said, the space now is convenience, but in the future, when they if they relocate, I have a concern that the original aim, that is to have people sleep in there, will be thwarted. Now, I know some DC agree with this, and some citizens think that it will be a good thing to move the SSSU farther away from them. But I think the administration should have to follow their own their own set of values. If you put these two facilities together, I think it's very hard to tolerate in the current societal norms. So I hope that administration can think about this again to find a new solution. Now, think about this in another way. The YMTT, because it is a historic site. Now, the red brick building is also a historic site. Now, some members say that because some people who want to watch Sichu, they don't want to be next to a public toilet. Now, I don't think we should say that. Now, of course, we should redevelop it. But if we can't, you can't say that. You can just stop the entire project because there's a public toilet. I mean, even the public toilet is part of the historic site. You can't just say that, oh, I want to watch Cantonese opera and I don't want to see a public toilet or the SSSU. But they have been there together for a long time. So the administration should have a good plan about how to relocate this. I know, of course, a lot of residents in that area hope that they can relocate. But I think you should listen to a broader view before you make a decision.
Your time is up. Next, Mr. Frankie Yik. Well, Mr. James To confirmed what I was about to say. The district council does support the idea, but what about the position of the district council member of that constituency? I think he or she must know very clearly about the case. Times have changed, and ideas have also changed. Now, we're going to have a motion. It is said that the facilities should be reprovisioned separately. Of course, it will be most ideal if we can have two different sites. If not, I just wonder if we can do something about the design so that we have two different buildings, so that the access would not be the same one. It would not be a shared access. You may think that reprovisioning it to a faraway place is not ideal, but then we have to be realistic. Administration for the DC in question, as well as the DC member for that constituency, we have already secured our support. We went to the district council 4 times to discuss this matter, to sound out the views of the district council and the member of that constituency, with the purpose to improve it. For the public toilet, it will be kept. After phase 1, we're going to demolish the existing facilities, and then we will reprovision the existing public toilet. If you want to expand the space, like if you want to have a rehearsal room, if you want to expand the side stage, it means that we have to reprovision some of the facilities which have been in coexistence for a long time. We have to live within certain limitations. They cannot be reprovisioned too far away, and they must be of a sufficient size so that it can be operational. I hope members can understand our limitations. We have already consulted the district council as well as the local people before we come to you and present this project to you. Mr. Chairman, I do have some time left. I hope the administration would consider this. I think the site is not a small one. If you can't have them at different locations, why can't you have them oriented differently? One facing the south, one facing the north, or in the northern portion, another one in the southern portion. Now, we have already received the wording from Mr. Zhang Guokqu concerning his motion. Mr. Zhang, would you like to say anything? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've drafted this motion. But then at that time, a few members haven't spoken. Having heard the additional members, I want to carry out certain amendments. Let me read out. This panel urges the administration to do the following. That is, in reprovisioning the RCP and the SSSU, you must respect the dignity of the street sleepers, and it should be people-oriented. And the RCP and the SSSU should be relocated at different sites. All right, members, are you clear about the wording? We have only got the proposer. Any seconder, Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Members, do you need to discuss the matter again, or do other members have other views? Ms. Chen Yun-han, keep it brief. I agree totally with what Mr. Fung-kwok has said. However, the administration must respond to our motion, because if the motion is not binding, and if the government doesn't respond to our motion, then it will be meaningless. Let me check how many members would like to speak. Helena Wong, Claudia Mo, Kenneth Chan, Yip Kin Yun. A minute each. It is a very simple motion. Helena Wong. A brief remark. Towards the end of Zhang Guokqu's motion, I want to add a few words. So he's saying that the SSSU and the RCP should be provisioned at different locations. Add a comma and say that to facilitate the accessibility of the site to the street sleepers. So you are seeking an amendment. Since there is an amendment, let's deal with the amendment first. Three members would like to speak: Claudia Mo, Kenneth Chan, and Yip Kin Yun. Concerning the amendment itself, do you have anything to say? No? Kenneth Chan, Yip Kin Yun, anything to say? I was about to make the same point. Mr. Yu Si-wing? Can I comment on Mr. Frankie Yick's proposal on the same site, but one opening, well, one having each having its access facing a different direction? So Ms. Wong would like to add one more phrase to the motion to facilitate the accessibility. Any objection who are in support? Panel members only. Non-panel members cannot take part in the voting. Seven of you. Those who are against? Any abstention? No abstention. So the amendment has been carried as amended by Claudia Mo. Sorry, as amended by Helena Wong. The motion of Mr. Fung-kwok as amended by Helena Wong has been carried. Any other views? Claudia Mo. I just want to remind the administration that, of course, I appreciate that Ms. Hui talked about a historical coincidence, but since you are introducing a precedent, then it will become a must instead of a coincidence, and this is most undesirable. I hope the administration will take note of this. Administration, any reply? No? Kenneth Chen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may ask our secretary at this point, I think this is about the reprovisioning of the Shanghai Street RCP and the Street Sleepers Services units. This is a funding request, so we are invited to discuss the funding proposal. Now we have a motion. If the motion is to be carried, I want to know about the impact on the funding request. Would it just be a non-binding motion? And on the other hand, if we also at the same time approve the funding request, would it be contradictory? So our clerk, if we approved the motion as amended, does it mean that the paper should be returned to administration so that they will come back with an amended version? We'll deal with it later. Mr. Yip Kin Yun would also like to speak. Basically, I was about to say what Ms. Helena Wong has said, so I don't need to speak. Mr. Yu Siwing, Mr. Chairman, today was presented before us is a funding request for the points made by other members. Now, the administration will reprovision the facilities. I think they can be housed at the same site, but then the site should be divided into two portions, one for each facility, instead of housing the SSSU on top of the RCP. In this way, we can resolve the problem and the reprovisioning can be done earlier. Now, Yamate is a crowded area. It's not easy to find a new site. It may upset the whole plan. So I hope if members can consider an alternative option. Well, I think all members have spoken. Helena Wong, you have 1 minute. I oppose Mr. Yu's proposal. It is not easy to cross the major thoroughfare. If you have been there, you would know it is not easily accessible to the street sleepers. Now, if the majority of us agree that it should be reprovisioned to an accessible place, then the proposed site is not an accessible place. Mr. Fung-kwok, to respond to Kenneth Chen's question, I think the administration should be more cautious. Don't just think that we are going through the motions today as a formality. At the FC meeting, we may find ourselves in a self-contradictory position, and you may not get the approval of the FC. Well, let's deal with the motion first, and then we will check how we are going to deal with the paper. So for the motion, who are in support of the motion? Mr. Zheng's motion as amended by Helena Wong.
修正咗嘛？對唔住，係。
I'm sorry about it. In fact, the motion as amended has already been carried. I have to apologize. So the motion as amended has already been approved. Now let's come back to this paper. That is the reprovisioning of the Shanghai Street RCP and the Street Sleepers Services units. The administration plans to take the paper to the PwC and FC in May and June respectively. Administration, as members have all spoken, I hope members would appreciate the difficulties in site selection. And in fact, we've spent a few years' time to respond to members' requests when we last came to ask for permission for the conversion of the YMTT. You asked us to follow that up by reprovisioning the facilities. Now the admin has given a reply. Now we have to deal with this issue. That is, do we support the admin's request to take this paper to the FC? Helena Wong, I object. We have asked a few questions that haven't been addressed. RCP should not be housed together with SSSU. Street sleepers must be given a more accessible place. I'm sure the HAB must submit a fresh paper and deal with the issues raised. That is where you are going to house the SSSU. Will it be on top of the CGA Activity Center or what? It must be an easily accessible place. You have to get the clearance from us here. Otherwise, even if you take it to the FC, it will still be rejected. Now, I think we need to indicate our position. Mr. James To, would you like to indicate your position or have something else to say? Mr. Chairman, just want to tell you my position. Mr. Frankie Yik said that even if the two facilities are housed together on the same site, maybe the design should be drawn in such a way that they have a different access. I think you can do the same if you house it at the CG Activity Center. So you need to be honest. If you have got other locations for reprovisioning, that's fine. If you say that you have no other choices, you must have them together, it is unacceptable. I think what you're saying isn't of much help. Now, the administration is saying that the XAC and the street sleepers should not be put together. Well, we have overrun, so I think we need to come to a decision. So I just want to ask you whether you are in support or not. So who are in support of the administration's proposal to refer this paper to the PwC and the FC? Yes, can we stay put and ask administration to come back? The administration has already indicated its position. So if we object to it, then we can't approve it. Even if the panel objects to it, it doesn't mean that the administration can't go to the FC. But it's up to the FC and the PwC to have their own decision.
So how many approve? That is, how many support that the administration will relocate of the Shanghai Street Refuge Regulation Point and Street Sleepers Shelter and Yamate Theater Phase 2 development? Did you support this? How many? 1. And opposed Abstentions. You can't vote if you're not in this panel. You cannot vote if you're not in this panel. Abstentions. 1. Okay. So we do not support this paper in terms of putting it forth to PWSC and the FC. The administration, anything to add? No. Okay. Then this item is ended. Then we must go to the next item. Alignment of fees and charges of municipal facilities and services under the policy purview of the Secretary for Home Affairs. I would the officials attend, please. Hello. In the 2013 budget policy address, the CE had stated that it wants to align the fees and charges for new territories as well as urban areas. Now it's already in the papers, and such as for under the LCSD as well as the FEHD public entertainment licenses. So there are some items that that hinge on subsidiary legislation amendments, such as the fees for various facilities, such as swimming pools, basketball courts, badminton courts, etc. So we're following two principles that in the new territories as well as urban areas should have alignment of fees and using the lowest fees, and also that the urban areas will follow the practices of new territories to follow the peak and non-peak hours. And so all of the public swimming areas will be $20 for non-peak hours. For peak hours, and the non-peak hours will be $17. Furthermore, in terms of peak and non-peak hours of new territories and urban areas are different, and we suggest that from weekdays 5 to 6 as well as before 6 on Saturdays should be considered at a non-peak hour, and other times should be a peak hour. In terms of amendment of subsidiary legislation and alignment of fees and charges, the details are listed in Appendix 1, and the public places of public entertainment is in the details are in Appendix 2. So we hope that this May we will submit the draft for subsidiary legislation amendments to LegCo, and we anticipate that in the mid of this year we will implement the new fees and charges, and after the changes into the computer system, we can implement this. In terms of alignment of fees and charges, we have consulted the Sports Commission, that is the Community Sports Committee, as well as district councils, chairman and deputy chairman, and they all support this. In terms of 150 items will be changed, and we think that there will be 7 million people who will benefit this, and the government will decrease revenue of $20 million. So we will review the fees afterwards, and then we will consult this public. And we hope that the members will peruse these documents and to give us some suggestions for this item. Thank you. So how many questions from members? Okay, 2 members. Ixi Wing. Mr. Tan Ka-piu. Now there are 4 members who want to ask questions. If there are no other questions, then 4 minutes each. Mr. Frankie. Yes, thank you. I support the suggestion is to align the fees and charges, and the good thing is to follow the lower fees, and I think that citizens will welcome this. Looking at last year, in terms of 24th of December, the secretary had answered the question from the chairman. And there's a management of these sports facilities. It is mentioned that in last September there were improvement facilities, and there were some actions to fight back people who are speculating these places. Now, this has been about half a year, and so how has been the effectiveness? So we need to ask the Deputy Secretary to supplement. Yes, thank you, Chairman, and thank you for your question. Now, the member has mentioned that last year we have taken various measures to prevent speculating, and in terms of enforcement, we do see that there is effectiveness. So we have increased the procedure to check the identity of people who are coming to book the facilities, and they must come in person to do this. And we also decrease the usage of different IDs to book facilities online, because that was a problem that caused speculating. So we do see some effectiveness in the measures we've taken. So we have announced that in the future we can have new measures, such as we will decrease so the date for booking a facility will be 10 days in advance instead of 30. So we hope that this will prevent more speculating. Okay, thank you for your answer. Because I have a viewpoint is that 30 days is too long for people to book facility in advance. So I thank you for decreasing this. Next, Mr. Ray Chan. So I agree with this alignment and to choose the lower fees as the principle. But in terms, I would like to ask about swimming pools in the urban area, because in the past there's no peak and non-peak hours. Right now it's $19. Now in the future, non-peak hours will be 17. If we don't use an alignment of non-peak and non-peak hours, I would think that perhaps the urban area should have $17. Why is it that in the urban area we should have a non-peak hour? Is it a financial consideration, or is it that we hope that the facility will be more used in a non-peak hour? Because the swimming pools is slightly different in terms of usage compared with different areas. Different courts, if you book it, then other people cannot use it. Now the swimming pools, unless it's like very full, otherwise a swimming pool can accommodate a lot of different people to use it at the same time. If we do want to encourage people to do sports, it would be better to use the cheapest possible fee. Now, if it is encouragement of people, now in terms of $17 and $19 is a very small difference, would actually encourage more people to use the swimming pool in non-peak hour. Now, if this is the principle that we're using, perhaps in terms of a non-peak hour, we should do more adjustment, because 17 is not that big, not that different from $19, and so your aim may not be achieved. Yes, thank you. Now, in the overall aim is that we hope to align the fees in new territories in urban area. You've mentioned in terms of swimming pool. So besides this particular change this time, in terms of concessionary prices can also in place, so people can use the swimming pools at a lower price. For example, we have monthly passes for swimming pools to allow people to use in a non-expensive way these facilities. So we just want to align the new territories and urban areas facilities, so that in terms of different fee items, we must do it underneath the overarching principle. But please don't be concerned, because we do have other concessionary measures to let people use the swimming pools. Now, I want to say that if we want to encourage people to swim in a non-peak hour, if you think that if we just make the $2 difference between peak and non-peak hours, your aim of encouragement will not be effective. Now, what we want to do is that, because in new territories we have this arrangement already, so under these taking into these factors, so we will take the lowest fee and to want to launch forth this to different citizens. Now, in urban area pools, you have this two-tiered system, and so actually you've made things more complicated. Now, if it doesn't achieve your aim of encouraging people to do sports during non-peak hours, I think you should change this. Yes, I think that we have encouraged citizens to use it in non-peak hours. Maybe Deputy Secretary can amend. Now, in terms of peak and non-peak hours for swimming pools, this is not a new measure. And now you know that in new territories we have always had this. So with its alignment to with NT. But I think what you said is very correct in that it's a difference between 17 and 19 isn't enough. So after this alignment, we will do a more comprehensive review to see that the difference in price is enough to encourage people to use the swimming pools in non-peak hours. So we will do this at a later stage. Next, Mr. Yu Siwing. Thank you, Chairman. I support of the decreasing the fees and as well as alignment of them. But it's because we're alignment, but we must follow the overarching principle in terms of peak and non-peak hours. Now, because you have non-peak hours, I think that after you align this, a lot of charges actually not distinguished between peak and non-peak. Now, non-peak hours concessionary is to decrease the pressure on peak hour usage. Now, because of this opportunity, should we clarify this? Now, for example, we should have a standard above a certain percentage, then we don't change it. Now, what if there's a 50-60 percentage, then we don't change it. But if those items that are the division between peak and non-peak hours, if there is a difference between of over 10%, should we encourage people to use the facilities in non-peak hours? That would be a very clear message that's delivered. But I think some people may be concerned as why is it that you have peak hours for some and not for others? So perhaps the administration can consider that if the usage is above 10% in terms of difference of usage between peak and non-peak hours, then we should set different prices. Thank you for your suggestion. Now, this is the first step in terms of adjustment of fees, and later, in terms of the smaller adjustments, we will do an overall review because this is a very big. This is already a very big operation because it's over 1,000 items. So we're using this as a first step. Maybe the Deputy Secretary can supplement. Yes, thank you. Now, after the alignment of fees and charges, you can see that in Appendix 1 that there are 130 items after alignment. Most of them are divided into peak and non-peak hours, but there are some items, such as football pitches that's natural grass. Now, because the usage is rather low, so we want to follow the lowest rate, that is $168. It remains the same. But in the future, we will do more reviews to see whether we should increase or we should have a more appropriate level between the prices of peak and non-peak hours. So we will review this further. Next is Mr. Tang Ka-pil. Thank you, Chairman. Of course, I support the contents of these papers. I don't think anyone will object. But looking at point 9, you said that we should have some license fees, and that will be done in the mid-year. But the changing of the leisure link system will take place incrementally. But what will that mean? But now, because the government is launching a lot, so I hope that this will implement first before consultation. These are only 2 things. These are very small amendments. There are some precedents in the society now. And so can we do the same here? Now, if the panel, no one objects here, can we do it faster?
Thank you, Mr. Tang, for your proposal. We plan to launch them in the third quarter. This is mainly because we need to upgrade and change the leisure link system. Maybe the AD can also supplement. Well, it will be negative vetting. We hope that in May we are able to introduce the amendment exercise, and then there will be altogether 49 days for the scrutiny. Subject to members' agreement, it will come into effect. But then the license fees can be introduced. Changes to the license fees can be introduced first. This is because we don't need to rely on the leisure link system. Subject to electrical members' approval, we need time to make changes to the computer system. It is quite a major exercise, and it will be labor-intensive. So our plan is that when we introduce the amendment to the draft legislation, subsidiary legislation in May, and if we're able to get your approval in early July, then once we have completed the alteration to the computer system, we can collect the new charges in early August. For license fees, there are just dozens of them. No information systems are involved, so they can be introduced more quickly. So for the LCSD-related fees, they can be introduced in early August, right? Are you already working on the changes to the leisure link system? We have already started the advanced work. Today, if we get your support, we will start our preparatory work soon. I'm only a member in attendance. I'm not a panel member. Helena Wong. I agree that we should align and lower the fees and charges. However, I do have a question. I want to know more about the venues for the recreation camps and the camping sites. Are you sure that all the applicants are permanent residents of Hong Kong? Are there any non-permanent residents going to the holiday camps? I think the camps are mainly for the permanent residents. Does it mean that you would also serve the individual visit scheme? People have to be age 18 or above to make an application, but you don't actually specify that someone has to be a permanent resident. Now, it is said that May the 1st is around the corner. If you want to book a site, you need to apply soon. Is it subject to any charges? If not, then you have to make sure that permanent residents will be adequately accommodated. So for the non-PRs, since you need to spend time to clean up the place, expenses are incurred, so I think you should impose a charge on the non-permanent residents who use the site. Recreational camps, of course, is mainly for our local residents. However, if tourists would like to use the holiday camps, like any other recreational facilities, they are welcome to use the holiday camps. We don't have any sort of full house, so they're welcome to use it. And as it has been rightly pointed out, the camping sites are not subject to a charge. It is on a first-come, first-served basis. So whether someone is a local citizen or whether he is a visitor, we don't impose a charge. The principle is a very simple one. That is, if we don't need to impose a charge, then we don't impose a charge. And then during the Golden Week last year, we saw many visitors using the camping site. So we have this new arrangement for the upcoming May 1st Golden Week. If we have permanent residents wishing to use the site, they will enjoy a priority, and that's why we have the publicity on the internet, on the website. Yes, I agree that there would be alignment, but I don't think local residents should pay the same fees and charges as the non-permanent residents. Now, for camping sites, of course, it's free of charge for anybody. Now, for the holiday camps, I think you should lower the fees and charges for local residents. Local residents are taxpayers. Don't you agree that we should give priority to them? Well, the practice has been in place for a long time for tourists using our holiday camps or camping sites. There are a few of them. Over 90% plus of the users are local residents. If we want to adhere to the principle of simplicity, we're not going to introduce a separate charging scheme. But of course, upon review, if necessary, we'll do so. We can consider it. I think it should be minuted that we disagree with the standardization of the fees and charges, irrespective of the origin. Your view has been recorded, but then it's your personal view, not the view of the panel. Next, Mr. Chung Shi-ken. We don't object to the idea. It's her personal view. We have got exchange activities, and it will be troublesome if we have a two-tier system. In the past, the urban area hasn't got any non-peak hour charges. But what about the elderly users? Can we allow the disabled, the students, and the elders pay the lowest fees, irrespective of whether it is peak hours or non-peak hours, so that they can enjoy the facilities? In the urban area, even though it is regarded as peak hour, the fees is dead for the non-peak hours. Why can't you just give them concessionary rates, so that they don't have to care whether it is peak hour or non-peak hour time slots? If you can't do that, what's the difficulty? I would like to thank the member for his comment. We try to benefit the elders as much as possible. We have a swimming pool monthly pass. It is very popular. We don't make a distinction between peak hours and non-peak hours. Of course, as I have said, the next exercise will be an overall review, and then we'll certainly look at the possibility of providing further concessions to elders or other groups of users. Next, Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to raise one point about the arrangements for non-peak hours. Currently, for non-peak hours, some group hires can use the venue free of charge. For this kind of arrangement, I'm referring to the non-peak hours. In fact, during the non-peak hours, quite a lot of venues are underutilized. So I would like to promote casual play. In other words, you can just walk in and then you just queue up to have a ball game. I think it was quite common in the past when we just walked in a playground and had a ball game. But I think it is getting quite uncommon for students. I think after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, after the students have come off school, If you allow the venues to be opened up to students in this way, it means that they can make better use of your venues. I just wonder if you would consider this. You may not want to open this to everybody. Is it possible to allow students with an identity card to use it? And this way you can make sport more popular. Thank you, Mr. Wu. We want to align the fees and charges. We want to standardize them in a way which simplify the fee structure. We also bear in mind making sports popular. In our second round, as to whether we can enhance the utilization rate, we are willing to consider longer-term measures. Didi, we don't always build fee-charging venues. In the past, we built a lot, and in future we'll keep building non-fee charging basketball courts. Students and members of the public can just walk in. They don't have to book it in advance. They don't have to pay a fee. They just take turns to use the venue. There are also free sessions. Since the utilization rate isn't high, so we do allow schools and sports associations to book the venues and use the venues free of charge. It is effective, and we therefore enable underutilized venues to be used by schools or groups free of charge. As to whether there's room for improvement, certainly we can bear this point in mind. I hope that you can do more in opening up the venues free of charge. When can you come back with more information so that we can have a more in-depth discussion? Do you have a timetable? Can you briefly talk about that? Timetable? Well, we just want to carry out the alignment first. We don't query that. After that, we'll embark on the second stage review. We hope that in the coming year, since the review is going to be comprehensive, it takes time. So regarding the free usage, this will be included in the second stage review. So we can expect a report in a year's time, right? Next, Mr. Fung-kwok. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I heard the point made by Helena Wong. I hope it is her personal view. I hope the Democratic Party won't alienate the non-residents when it comes to usage of our facilities. Recently, we have heard that many tourists and visitors would like to use the facilities together with our citizens. In fact, we do welcome this. What worries me here is that when it comes to the alignment of fees and charges, basically the trend is a downward one. There will be reduction of the fees and charges, bringing them down to the lower rate among the urban and NT rates, as well as the lower rate between the peak and non-peak rates. I want to know whether we can do something to make sure that there won't be any abuse, so that people won't monopolize the venues and people won't book the venues and then resell the use of the venue for a profit. I understand that you have adopted certain measures. Would you like to elaborate on the measures? And are you confident that you can stamp out this kind of profiteering or speculation? Because people do make a profit to the tune of hundreds of dollars. So do you have any strategies, any measures to stamp out the abuse?
Thank you for the suggestion from Mr. Yip. Now this is about alignment and simplifying fee charges, and this is the first step. And later on, for each particular fee and charge, we will do more review. So we hope that in terms of the fee and in terms of process, we'll make it more effectively used. And there's another problem is that we had taken some measures to have more effective usage. So I hope that the deputy secretary can discuss this. Now, we are very concerned about this, about how to ensure that people who are using the facilities are not abusing the usage. Now, I had mentioned earlier that from the last year, we have taken a list of measures, such as we need to increase the enforcement of identity verification. So I think this is quite effective. So you can use some other person's ID to book a facility, and then use our facility after some speculation. So because we are valid verification identification to 100%, so we have done this, stemmed this from happening. So we know that some other situations, perhaps some other person will book a facility, then they will sell the booking paper, and some other person get this. So we know that we need to handle the situation. So in the past, because there was an investigation from the ombudsman, we know that in terms of the football pitches, we have stopped this procedure for 6 months. So we hope that this can further stem speculation. And also, some has mentioned that we will change the booking dates of 30 days in advance to decrease to 30 days in advance. So we think that this would be very effective to prevent speculation. So right now, if they book a facility, they have a lot of time to speculate in terms of there's 30 days, but there'll be less space for them to do so if it's only 10 days. Next, I personally have a question. I am concerned about the policy in terms of facility booking. So I don't think that this may not be the most effective. So if you book this facility and no one goes, it not be effective usage. So perhaps can we do some other things, such as a verification of identification? Is it now just starting this now? So let's say there's a football match for 90 minutes. Will you have a procedure that they have to verify the ID even after the time has elapsed? So I think that would be very effective. So right now, lots of speculation is because that they get a profit of every few $100s for each time slot. So I know, in terms of an indoor football pitch, it's really not. It's worth a lot less than the speculation profit. So if you say that the person who booked the facility has to be there the entire time, not just that they only give their ID to be verified at the beginning, but then give it the pitch to someone else, then they'll not be effective in terms of stemming speculation. So I think we need to do more in terms of particular places where the profit will be highest for speculation. So we agree with this. Right now, in terms of enforcement, so we ensure that so we have to see the person's ID, and we have to ensure that they stay during the pitch in the time slot. So we are doing this now. In terms of non-usage rate, we know that some people are concerned about that. But if we do cancel the arrangement in terms of using the space if no one has booked it, so I think that that will not be ideal. So I think that a lot of people are very smart. If no one is speculating it, then they can very easily get their spots in terms of online booking. I think the non-usage will decrease. Of course, during this 6-month testing period, we want to see that whether there will be less usage. So we will review this. Any other questions from members? If not, then I think that we can end this item here. Thank you, the officials, for attending. Next is item 6, any other business? Any other business from members? If not, then the meeting is adjourned today. Thank you.